So we are talking about wild and crazy rideshare experiences. If you have a great story, email it to me. I'll make a video out of it. And this story is called The Dangerous. I mentioned that it falls to drivers to enforce any laws that are relevant during a rideshare trip. It also falls to drivers to enforce any rules Uber itself may impose on passengers. Recently, Uber issued a new rule requiring all drivers and all passengers to wear face masks during Uber trips. That strikes me as a reasonable requirement during the COVID-19 pandemic, because we drivers may have up to 15 to 20 people in our car in a single day. We're cooped up with them in a very small space with no ventilation, making it ideal conditions for the virus to spread. Literally, the first passenger I picked up on Monday morning after this new rule went into effect didn't have a face mask with him. I told them, no mask, no ride. They started yelling at me, but fortunately for me this time, I did not start the trip before everything settled, so I knew I could cancel it, which would leave them with no way to give me a bad rating or even complain about me. As part of Uber's new face mask rule, they have also said they are no longer going to count trip cancellations against drivers, so we're free to cancel as much as we want to now. The next passenger that day was wearing a face mask, but had it pulled down below his nose, which is basically the same as not wearing a mask at all. I don't understand why people even bother with the mask in the first place if they're not going to cover both their mouth and their nose, but this guy was one of those. So I asked him nicely if he wouldn't mind pulling it up to cover his nose. He looked annoyed but complied to appease me. I asked him if he would feel safe riding around with me, cooped up in my car, if my mouth and nose weren't both covered, and he said no. But of course, he left me a low rating. That's the thing about Uber rules. It's up to the driver to enforce them, but drivers put themselves in jeopardy of getting bad ratings if they do try to enforce them. But this COVID-19 rule, I'm definitely going to enforce that. I'm not going to take unnecessary risks with my health for my life to drive for Uber. I'm no longer going to put myself in a position to get bad ratings from passengers who don't want to do the right thing and wear masks and wear them properly. From now on, whenever a passenger walks up to my car, either without a mask or with one, but one that's not worn properly, I'm just going to cancel the trip and drive off. The minute you so much as ask these people to do the right thing, you know you're going to get a bad rating. I'm only going to take people who don't have to be asked. As long as I haven't tapped start trip, they can never rate me. If it may anger them to no end, and they may be shouting and screaming at me as I drive off, but there's no retribution they can take out against me, right? So true. So this individual learned the hard way and then started following a method that would not get him or her low ratings, right? And that basically means if you're not wearing the mask the right way, if you're not wearing a mask at all, bye-bye, I cancel on you. Please share your stories.